Hello, and welcome to the English Podcast Lab. I'm Mike, and I am pumped for today's deep dive. We've got Sarah with us, a real expert in healthy eating, to help us break down some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Today, we are talking all about healthy eating habits. You know, it's something we all struggle with, right? We know we should eat better, but sometimes it feels like a puzzle with a million pieces.
Oh yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming. But the good news is it doesn't have to be about these huge, drastic changes.
Exactly.
We're all about, those small, sustainable changes that just fit into your life.
Yeah, and that's what we are here for. We've dug deep into the research and articles and expert tips to figure out what actually works.
Absolutely.
And we'll be exploring what foods to really prioritize, how to prepare them in ways that actually, boost their health benefits, and even some, sneaky strategies to improve your eating habits without turning your whole life upside down. All right, so let's start with the basics. We've all heard about the major food groups: veggies, fruits, lean meats, and poultry, grains, and dairy. Sarah, walk us through why each of these is so important.
Yeah, so each group kind of brings something unique to the table. They provide those essential nutrients our bodies need to thrive. So let's start with vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
They're just bursting with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And that fiber is so important, it helps with weight management, strengthens our immune system, and can even protect us against chronic diseases.
Wow. So it's like, giving your body its own personal bodyguard against all the things that are trying to knock us down.
Yeah, exactly. And then when we think about lean meats and poultry, they're powerhouses of protein. Protein is so important for building and repairing tissues. So think of it as, the construction crew of your body. And they also provide iron, which is essential for carrying oxygen throughout your system. And we can't forget about fish, which is also a great source of protein.
Right.
And it's got those heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids.
Yeah, I've heard those omega-3s are like the superstars of the fat world, fighting inflammation and keeping our hearts happy.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to grains. They're our main source of energy, right? They provide those carbohydrates that our bodies can break down into glucose, and that's the fuel that our cells run on. And choosing whole grains over refined grains is always a smart move.
Check.
Because they're packed with more fiber, which aids digestion and keeps you feeling fuller for longer.
So it's like that slow burning fuel that keeps your engine running smoothly all day long.
Exactly. And finally, we have dairy, which is a fantastic source of calcium.
Yeah.
Calcium is essential for building strong bones and teeth. Nobody wants brittle bones.
Right.
Plus, dairy products also give us protein and vitamin D.
I've heard that most people don't get enough calcium, so getting your dairy or dairy alternatives is really key.
It is.
Speaking of getting enough, it's interesting how many people underestimate the importance of actually meeting those recommended daily servings.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to fruits and vegetables.
For sure.
I'm curious, what are the actual numbers on that, Sarah?
Yeah, well, it might surprise you, but only about 12% of people actually meet the recommended daily intake for fruit. And for vegetables, it's even lower at about 10%.
Wow, that's pretty eye-opening. It's a good reminder that we could probably all benefit from adding a little more color to our plates.
Definitely. And while these 5 food groups really do make up the foundation of a healthy diet, there's another category we need to talk about.
Okay.
And these are called discretionary choices, or sometimes they're called occasional foods.
Occasional foods, those sound like the fun ones. What falls under that category?
Yeah, so think about those foods we all enjoy, but that we shouldn't be eating every day.
Okay.
These are the ones that are higher in saturated fat, added sugar, and salt.
Right.
So things like sweet biscuits, cakes, desserts, pastries, processed meats, sausages, those tasty takeaway burgers and pizzas, and those sugary drinks.
Basically all the things that we, crave but know we shouldn't be having all the time.
Yeah, and it's not about cutting them out completely, but it's more about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Enjoying those treats every now and then is perfectly fine, but they shouldn't be taking the place of those nutritious foods from those main 5 food groups on a regular basis.
It's like the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
80% healthy choices and 20% for, indulging in the things that you love.
Exactly. So we've covered the what of healthy eating, but something that's equally important is the how.
Okay.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about something really fascinating, our personal eating habits.
All right, I'm ready to unpack this. What kind of habits are we talking about here?
Well, think about the way you eat. Are you a speed eater? Do you tend to eat when you're not actually hungry? Do you eat while you're watching TV or scrolling through your phone?
Oh, yeah.
All of these are habits that can impact our food choices and ultimately our health.
I'm definitely guilty of the phone scrolling while eating. It's so easy to lose track of how much I'm eating when I'm distracted.
It's so common, and it's something we all need to be more mindful of. And one habit in particular that can lead to overeating is eating too quickly.
Why is that?
Well, it takes about 20 minutes for our brains to receive those signals from our stomachs telling us we're full. So if you're scurfing down your food in 5 minutes, your brain doesn't even have time to realize you're full.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That makes so much sense. So what can we do to replace those unhealthy habits with, better ones?
There's actually a bunch of practical tips that we can incorporate into our daily routine. One of the easiest is minimizing distractions while you're eating.
Okay.
So put your phone away, switch off the TV, and just focus on the food in front of you.
It sounds simple, but I bet it makes a big difference.
It really does. Another important tip is to eat slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Really savor each bite, chew your food thoroughly, and give your body time to register those fullness cues.
I've also heard that putting your fork down between bites can be really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great strategy to kind of help you pace yourself. Another helpful tip is to plan your meals ahead of time.
I love meal prepping. It honestly takes so much stress out of my week.
It's a total game changer. Planning your meals means that you have healthy options ready to go, so you're less likely to grab something unhealthy when you're in a rush.
Totally.
And cooking at home more often is another great way to take control of your eating habits. When you're cooking your own meals, you're in charge of the ingredients.
Exactly.
So you can use fresh whole foods and avoid those hidden sugars, unhealthy fats, and all that extra sodium that's often in processed foods and restaurant meals.
Plus, it can be a lot of fun to get creative in the kitchen and try out new recipes.
Absolutely. And speaking of kitchens, let's talk about grocery shopping. That's where it all begins, right?
Now, this is where it gets interesting. I know there are so many traps and temptations lurking in those grocery aisles.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
It's like a minefield of marketing tricks and unhealthy choices that are, disguised as healthy ones.
Yeah.
But don't worry, there are some simple strategies you can use to navigate the grocery store like a pro and make healthier choices.
Okay, lay it on me. What are your top tips?
My number one tip is to always make a list beforehand and stick to it.
Okay.
This will help you avoid those impulse buys and make sure you only buy the things you need for your planned meals.
Oh, I am so guilty of those impulse buys, especially when I'm hungry.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Another important tip is to be cautious of diet foods.
Wait, why are those bad? I thought they were supposed to be helpful for weight loss.
They can be very deceptive. Often diet foods have had the fat removed, which is great.
Okay.
But to make up for the flavor and texture, they've added extra sugar or artificial sweeteners. And sometimes this can make them even more calorie dense than the full fat versions.
So those diet cookies might not be so diet friendly after all.
Exactly. They might seem like a healthy choice, but they can actually sabotage your efforts in the long run.
Okay.
It's always a safer bet to choose whole, unprocessed foods over those heavily processed diet alternatives.
That makes a lot of sense. So the focus should be on real food, not the imposter diet versions.
Absolutely. Now let's head back to the kitchen where the real magic happens. The way we cook our food can actually have a huge impact on its nutritional value.
Oh, tell me more about this. I'm fascinated by how cooking methods can change the healthfulness of food.
It's really interesting. Generally speaking, baking, roasting, or steaming are considered to be healthier cooking methods compared to frying or grilling.
Why is that?
Well, grilling and frying at high temperatures can create harmful compounds.
Okay.
And these compounds have been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers and heart disease.
So while that grilled steak might be tasty, it's probably best to enjoy it in moderation.
Yeah, moderation is definitely key. Now, on the other hand, baking, roasting, and steaming, they actually help preserve the nutrients in food, making them healthier choices.
This is all such great information, Sarah. I feel like I'm already learning so much about how to make healthier choices.
That's great to hear. So let's talk about some easy and fun swaps that we can make in our everyday lives. Remember, small changes can make a big impact.
I love that. Tell me about those swaps.
All right, first up, let's swap those sugary drinks for some refreshing sparkling water.
I've already jumped on the sparkling water bandwagon. It's amazing how many different flavors there are now.
It's such a great alternative. Next, let's swap out that refined white bread for some whole grain bread.
More fiber, more nutrients I'm in.
Perfect. Now, this one might be a little tougher, but trust me, it's worth it. Let's trade those greasy French fries for some baked potatoes.
Oh, I love baked potatoes.
Yeah.
They're so versatile, you can top them with all sorts of healthy and delicious ingredients.
Exactly. And they're so much healthier than those deep-fried spuds. And lastly, let's swap those dried berries, which can be loaded with sugar, for fresh berries.
Fresh berries are like nature's candy. Sweet, juicy, and packed with antioxidants.
That's a great way to put it. Speaking of sweetness, let's talk about fruit juice.
Okay.
You know, it's often marketed as a healthy choice, but it's not always as good as it seems.
I used to think fruit juice was a healthy choice, but I've heard some things that have made me question that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth questioning. While 100% fruit juice does contain some vitamins and minerals, it lacks the fiber and chewing resistance of whole fruit.
What difference does that make?
Well, this means that the sugar in juice is absorbed into your bloodstream much faster, which can lead to those sugar spikes and potentially overconsumption.
Wow.
It's always a better idea to go for the whole fruit whenever you can.
So whole fruit is the winner, hands down. It's like getting the full package, fiber, nutrients, and that satisfying feeling of, biting into something.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about hydration. Something as simple as drinking enough water can have a huge impact on our health and well-being.
Yeah, I've heard that staying hydrated is crucial for everything from our energy levels to, our digestion.
That's right. Water is essential for so many bodily functions, from regulating our body temperature to transporting nutrients and flushing out waste products. When we're dehydrated, we can experience fatigue, headaches, digestive issues, and even struggle to think clearly.
So it's like our body's internal plumbing system, keeping everything flowing smoothly.
That's a great analogy. And here's an interesting tidbit. Research suggests that drinking water before meals can actually help curb your appetite.
Really? I've never heard that before.
It's true. By filling our stomachs with water before we eat, we can create that sense of fullness, which may lead to us eating less overall.
That's a great tip, especially for those of us trying to manage our weight.
Absolutely. And speaking of managing weight, let's touch on two other important lifestyle factors that go hand in hand with healthy eating: sleep and exercise.
Oh, I knew this was coming. I can never escape the importance of sleep and exercise, no matter what health topic we're talking about.
They're truly the cornerstones of a healthy lifestyle. And when we talk about healthy eating, we can't ignore the impact of getting enough sleep and incorporating regular physical activity.
How does a lack of sleep affect our eating habits?
When we don't get enough sleep, our appetite regulation gets thrown off. Our bodies produce more of the hunger hormone ghrelin and less of the satiety hormone leptin, leading to increased cravings and a tendency to overeat.
So it's like our bodies are trying to make up for that lack of energy from sleep by demanding more food.
Exactly. And on the flip side, regular exercise not only helps us burn calories and maintain a healthy weight, but it also improves our insulin sensitivity, which helps regulate blood sugar levels and reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
It's amazing how interconnected all these aspects of our health are. Sleep, exercise, and healthy eating, they all work together to keep us feeling our best.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about something that can be a challenge for even the most health-conscious individuals.
Okay.
Eating out healthfully.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's so easy to get sidetracked when you're faced with a menu full of tempting but not so healthy options.
It's definitely a test of our willpower, but it is possible to make healthy choices when you're eating out.
Okay.
First and foremost, be mindful of portion sizes.
Yeah, restaurant portions are notoriously huge. I often feel like I'm eating enough for 2 people.
Yeah, it's a common problem. Don't be afraid to ask for a to-go container right away and pack up half your meal before you even start eating.
That's a great strategy. What else can we do?
Opt for grilled or baked dishes over fried ones. Ask for extra vegetables or a side salad, and be wary of those creamy, heavy sauces which can add a ton of calories and fat.
Okay, what about drinks?
Stick to water, unsweetened tea, or sparkling water. Steer clear of those sugary sodas and fancy cocktails which can really pack on the calories.
Those are all great tips, Sarah. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have to ask about fast food. Is there any hope of finding healthy options there?
Believe it or not, some fast food places actually have relatively healthy choices. These days, many chains offer grilled chicken salads, veggie burgers, and even some decent side dishes.
Okay.
It's all about doing a little research beforehand and making informed choices.
So it's not a complete no-go zone.
Right.
There are hidden gems to be found if you know where to look.
Exactly.
This has been so insightful, Sarah. I feel incredibly motivated to make some positive changes to my own eating habits.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way.
This is just the beginning of our deep dive into healthy eating habits. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still so much more to explore. We'll be back right after a quick break, so don't go anywhere.
And we are back to the English Podcast Lab, continuing our deep dive into healthy eating habits.
Sorry.
And I'm excited to share some more, really practical tips that can help you make sustainable changes to your diet.
I'm all ears. What have you got for us?
Well, remember all those small changes we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, let's put them into practice. One super effective strategy is to minimize distractions while you're eating.
So no more scrolling through social media or watching TV while I'm having dinner.
Exactly. When your mind is elsewhere, you're not really paying attention to those fullness cues from your body.
Okay.
And this can lead to, overeating without even realizing it.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of polishing off an entire bag of chips while watching a movie without even thinking about it.
Oh, it happens to the best of us. Another important tip is to slow down your eating.
Yeah. I know we hear this all the time, but why is it so important?
Well, it takes around 20 minutes for your brain to register that you're full.
Right.
So if you're eating too quickly, you could end up consuming way more calories than you need before your brain even has a chance to catch up.
It's like a race against time between my stomach and my brain.
You could say that.
Yeah.
By slowing down, chewing your food thoroughly, and really savoring each bite, you're giving your brain a chance to get those fullness signals and let you know when it's time to stop.
It's like hitting the pause button on autopilot eating.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Another really helpful approach is to be more mindful of your hunger cues.
What do you mean by that?
So before you reach for that snack, just pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I actually hungry right now, or am I just bored, stressed, or maybe feeling a bit emotional?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I definitely have those emotional eating moments sometimes.
Oh, we all do. Sometimes we eat for reasons other than physical hunger, and just being aware of those triggers can really empower you to make more conscious choices about, when and what you eat.
So it's all about being in tune with my body and understanding why I'm reaching for food in the first place.
Exactly. Now let's talk about a strategy that can be a real game changer when it comes to healthy eating meal planning.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of meal prepping. It just makes my life so much easier during the week.
It's a brilliant strategy. Planning your meals ahead of time means you're way less likely to make those impulsive, unhealthy choices when you're, hungry and pressed for time.
Totally, because when I'm hungry and I haven't planned anything, it's way too easy to just order takeout.
Oh, absolutely. It happens to all of us. Meal planning also helps you make sure you have a variety of nutritious foods readily available. So you don't have those I have nothing to eat moments that can lead to unhealthy snacking.
Okay, so meal planning is definitely something I need to get better at.
Yeah.
What are some tips for making it feel less overwhelming?
Well, a good starting point is to just set aside some time each week to map out your meals.
Okay.
Look for simple, healthy recipes that, won't take forever to prepare, and then make a grocery list based on those meals.
All right.
You can even prep some of the ingredients in advance.
Okay.
Like chopping veggies or cooking grains.
Right.
Just to make weeknight cooking even easier.
That sounds very manageable. What about cooking at home in general? How does that play into healthy eating?
Cooking at home, honestly, is one of the best things you can do for your health. It puts you in control of what's going into your food. You can use fresh whole ingredients, adjust portion sizes to your liking, and avoid all those hidden sugars, unhealthy fats, and excess sodium that are often lurking in processed foods and restaurant meals.
Plus, it can be a lot of fun to experiment in the kitchen and try new recipes.
Absolutely. And if you're new to cooking, there are so many resources available online and in cookbooks that have, simple, healthy recipes for beginners.
Awesome. I'm always looking for new recipes to try.
Yeah.
So cooking at home is a big yes.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something that can be a real minefield: grocery shopping.
Yes, the grocery store. Yeah. It is full of temptations, but with a little knowledge, you can navigate those aisles like a pro and come out with some healthy choices.
All right, share your wisdom. What are your top grocery shopping tips?
My number one tip is to never, And I mean never go grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's a classic mistake.
Yeah.
I know I'm way more likely to grab those unhealthy impulse buys when my stomach is rumbling.
We've all been there. Eating a balanced meal or snack before you head to the store can really help you make those more sensible decisions.
Fuel up before you shop. Got it. What else?
Always make a list and stick to it. This will help you avoid those impulse purchases and make sure you're only buying what you actually need for those meals you've planned.
I'm a list maker, but even I get sidetracked sometimes by those tempting displays.
Oh, those displays are designed to lure us in. Try to just stay focused on your list and avoid those aisles if you can.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. Another really important tip is to read food labels carefully.
Oh, I know food labels can be so confusing. What should I be paying attention to?
Look for foods that are lower in saturated fat, trans fat, added sugars, and sodium.
Okay.
And at the same time, you want to look for things that are higher in fiber protein and those essential vitamins and minerals.
It's like a balancing act, looking out for both the good and the bad.
Exactly. And don't be fooled by those health halo terms like low fat or sugar-free. Sometimes those foods have compensated for the missing ingredient by adding other things that might not be so healthy. Always check the full ingredient list and the nutrition facts panel to really get the whole picture.
It's like being a food detective, uncovering the truth behind those marketing claims.
I love that. Now let's talk about those diet foods that can sometimes trip people up.
Oh yeah. I used to think diet foods were the answer to all my weight loss dreams. But I've learned that they're not always what they seem.
You're right. Diet foods can be so misleading. Often they've simply had the fat removed. But to make up for that lost flavor and texture, they've added extra sugar or artificial sweeteners.
Right.
And those can come with their own set of health concerns.
So those low-fat cookies might not be so diet-friendly after all.
Exactly. It's always a better bet to choose those whole unprocessed foods over the heavily processed diet alternatives.
Focus on real food, not the imposter versions. Got it. Now let's head back to the kitchen where the culinary magic happens. What are your thoughts on making healthier choices when it comes to cooking methods?
So the way you cook your food can actually significantly impact its nutritional value.
Okay.
As a general rule, baking, roasting, and steaming are considered to be healthier cooking methods compared to frying or grilling.
Okay, why is that?
Well, grilling and frying at high temperatures can create harmful compounds called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
Wow, those are some big words.
They are.
Okay.
And these compounds have been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers.
Oh, wow.
So while that grilled steak might be tasty, it's probably best enjoyed in moderation.
Yeah, moderation is key.
For sure. Now, on the other hand, baking, roasting, and steaming those help retain the valuable nutrients in the food.
Right.
Making them healthier choices.
Less charb, more steam. I like it.
Exactly. Now, remember those fun and easy swaps we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Small changes, big impact.
Right.
You ready for a few more?
Absolutely. Hit me with those swaps.
Okay, first up, let's ditch those sugary drinks once and for all and embrace the bubbly goodness of sparkling water.
Oh, I'm already a sparkling water convert.
Yeah.
It's my go-to drink these days.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
There are so many different flavors these days. You can even add fresh fruit or herbs to give it an extra little flavor boost.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next on the swap list?
All right.
Let's trade in that refined white bread for some whole grain goodness.
More fiber, more nutrients. Sign me up.
Excellent. Now, this one might be a little challenging for some, but trust me, it's worth it. Let's swap those greasy French fries for some fluffy baked potatoes.
Oh, I love baked potatoes. They're so versatile. You can top them with all sorts of healthy and delicious things.
I know, right? And they're a much healthier choice than those deep-fried spuds.
Okay, what about those sweet cravings?
Yeah.
Are there any swaps for those?
Instead of reaching for those dried berries, which can be really high in sugar,
Yeah.
let's opt for some fresh berries instead.
Yeah, fresh berries are like nature's candy.
They are.
Sweet, juicy, and packed with antioxidants.
Absolutely. Speaking of sweetness, let's talk about fruit juice.
All right.
It's often marketed as this healthy choice,
Yeah.
but it's not always as good as it seems.
Right. I used to think that fruit juice was a healthy way to get my daily fruit intake. But I've heard some things that have made me think twice about that.
It's good to be skeptical. While 100% fruit juice does offer some vitamins and minerals, it lacks the fiber and the chewing resistance of whole fruit.
What difference does that make?
Well, without that fiber, the sugar in juice is absorbed into your bloodstream much faster,
Okay.
leading to those sugar spikes that we talked about earlier and potentially, overconsumption.
Yeah.
It's always best to reach for the whole fruit whenever possible.
So whole fruit is the clear winner.
Yes.
It's like getting the complete package.
Yeah.
The fiber, the nutrients, and that satisfying feeling of actually biting into something.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears again and talk about hydration. Drinking enough water can have a profound impact on our overall health and well-being.
I know we touched on this earlier, but I'm always up for more tips on how to drink more water.
It's so important. When we're properly hydrated, our bodies just function better. We have more energy, our digestion runs more smoothly, and we even feel better mentally.
So how can we make sure we're drinking enough throughout the day? What are your top hydration hacks?
Well, one really simple tip is to just carry a reusable water bottle with you everywhere you go and sip on it regularly throughout the day.
Okay.
You can even set reminders on your phone to drink water every hour or so.
Yeah, those reminders can be lifesavers, especially when I get so caught up in work and I forget to take breaks.
Oh, we've all been there. And here's another tip that I personally love.
Okay.
Infuse your water with fresh fruit or herbs, or even a squeeze of citrus fruit
Oh, yeah.
to add a little bit of flavor and make it more enjoyable.
I love doing that. Cucumber and mint water is so refreshing.
It's delicious! And it's such a great way to stay hydrated without getting bored of just plain water.
Totally. Now let's move on to two other key elements of a healthy lifestyle that are very closely connected to healthy eating,
Yes.
sleep, and exercise.
I know we've touched on these a little bit already, but it's so important to emphasize just how crucial they are.
Oh, I knew this was coming. It seems like sleep and exercise are essential for every aspect of our health.
They truly are the cornerstones of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And when we talk about healthy eating, we can't ignore the impact of getting enough sleep and incorporating regular physical activity.
So how does a lack of sleep affect our eating habits?
When we don't get enough sleep, our appetite regulation just goes haywire.
Oh.
Our bodies start producing more of the hunger hormone ghrelin and less of the satiety hormone leptin.
Okay.
And this leads to, those increased cravings and a tendency to overeat.
So it's like our bodies are trying to make up for that lack of energy from sleep
Yeah.
by, demanding more food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, regular exercise not only helps us burn calories and maintain a healthy weight, but it also improves our insulin sensitivity, which helps to regulate blood sugar levels and reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
It's really incredible how interconnected all of these aspects of our health are. Sleep, exercise, and healthy eating. They all work together to help us feel our best.
Absolutely. They really are like the three musketeers of a healthy lifestyle, all for one and one for all.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about something that can be a bit tricky.
Okay.
Even for the most health-conscious individuals, eating out healthfully,
Yeah.
it can be so easy to fall off the wagon when you're staring at a menu full of, tempting but not so healthy options.
It's definitely a challenge, but it is possible to make healthier choices when you're eating out.
Right.
First and foremost, be mindful of portion sizes.
Yeah, restaurant portions are notoriously huge.
Yeah.
I often feel like I'm eating enough for two people.
That's a common complaint. Don't be afraid to ask for a to-go container right away and pack up half of your meal before you even start eating.
That's a great strategy. What else can we do?
Opt for grilled or baked dishes over those fried foods. Ask for extra vegetables or a side salad. And be wary of those creamy, heavy sauces, which can add a ton of extra calories and fat.
What about drinks?
Stick to water, unsweetened tea, or sparkling water. Avoid those sugary sodas and fancy cocktails, which can really pack on the calories.
Great tips.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I have to ask about fast food.
Yeah.
Is there any hope of finding healthy options there?
Believe it or not, some fast food places actually do offer some relatively healthy choices.
Okay.
Many chains now offer grilled chicken salads, veggie burgers, and even some pretty decent side dishes.
All right.
It's all about doing a little research beforehand and making those informed choices.
So it's not a complete no-go zone. There's some hidden gems to be found if you know where to look.
Exactly. Now let's circle back to a concept that we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Discretionary choices or occasional foods.
Oh, yeah, those sound like the fun ones.
They are. These are the foods we all love, but should really only be enjoyed in moderation. So we're talking about things like sweet biscuits, cakes, desserts, pastries, processed meats, sausages, those takeaway foods like burgers and pizza.
And all those sugary drinks.
Basically all the things we crave but shouldn't be making up, the majority of our diet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not about, depriving yourself.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance.
Right.
Enjoying those treats every now and then is totally fine.
Okay.
But they shouldn't be replacing those nutritious foods from those main 5 food groups regularly.
It's like the 80-20 rule. 80% healthy choices and 20% for, indulging in the things that you love.
That's a great way to think about it. And remember, a healthy diet is not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about making those gradual, sustainable changes that you can stick with for the long haul.
I love that progress, not perfection. It's a message I think we can all get behind.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And don't be afraid to experiment and figure out what works best for you. Your healthy eating journey is unique, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. That's a great point. This has been so insightful, Sarah. I feel incredibly motivated to take charge of my health and make those positive changes.
That's fantastic. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way. This is just a part of our deep dive into healthy eating habits. Stay tuned because we'll be back with even more strategies, tips, and tricks to help make healthy eating a sustainable and enjoyable part of your life.
Great. I can't wait. Welcome back to the English Podcast Lab. We're wrapping up our deep dive on healthy eating habits, and I feel like I've already learned so much.
Oh, it's been great. And remember, it's not about, being perfect. It's about finding those sustainable changes that you can stick with and that work for you.
Absolutely. It's progress, not perfection. So where do we go from here? What are some other tips or strategies that we can use to make healthy eating feel less like a chore and more like a natural part of our lives?
Well, let's talk about a few more, really practical tips that you can kind of weave into your everyday routine. First, let's focus on creating a really supportive environment at home.
Okay. What does that look like?
So it's all about making those healthy choices the easy choices.
Okay.
For example, keep a bowl of fresh fruit out on the counter. So it's the first thing you see when you walk into the kitchen.
So out of sight, out of mind, but in this case, inside, top of mind.
Exactly. And the reverse is true too. If you have, unhealthy snacks hiding in your pantry, you're much more likely to grab them.
Yeah.
So try to keep those tempting treats out of sight, or even better, out of the house completely.
I like that. It's about setting myself up for success, not temptation.
Exactly. Another helpful tip is to pre-portion your snacks.
Okay.
So instead of mindlessly munching your way through a whole bag of chips, divide them into smaller servings.
So you're saying like put them into little baggies or containers?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
When you have those pre-portioned snacks ready to go, it's much easier to manage your portion control.
Right.
And avoid overeating.
I can definitely see how that would make a difference.
Yeah.
It takes the guesswork out of snacking.
Yeah.
What about breakfast? I know it's important, but I often struggle to make time for it in the mornings.
I totally get it. Those busy mornings can be tough. But even when you're short on time, there are plenty of quick and healthy breakfast options that you can put together in just minutes.
Like what?
Overnight oats are a fantastic choice.
Okay, I've heard about those, but I've never actually tried them. What are they exactly?
So overnight oats are basically oats that have been soaked overnight in milk or yogurt.
Okay.
And you can customize them with all sorts of delicious toppings like fruit nut seeds or a drizzle of honey or maple syrup.
Yeah.
They're a great source of fiber protein and complex carbs to keep you feeling full and energized until lunchtime.
That sounds both delicious and convenient. I'm going to have to give that a try. Any other quick breakfast ideas?
Yeah, smoothies are another great option.
Okay.
Just throw some fruit, veggies, protein powder, and your liquid of choice into a blender and boom!
Easy.
You've got a nutritious and portable breakfast in seconds.
Yeah, smoothies are definitely my go-to when I'm in a rush. You can pack so many nutrients into one drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're more of a savory breakfast person, you can always scramble some eggs with veggies or toast a whole grain English muffin with avocado and a sprinkle of everything bagel seasoning.
Ooh, I love all of these ideas. I'm feeling much more inspired to make breakfast a priority now.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that I think is a real struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Those pesky cravings.
Oh, cravings, they are a normal part of life.
Yeah.
But they can definitely, throw us off track.
They do.
It's really important to have some strategies in place to manage them effectively.
Okay, tell me about those strategies. What are some ways to kind of, tame those cravings?
Well, first and foremost, make sure you're eating enough throughout the day.
Okay.
When your body is properly nourished, those cravings tend to be less intense.
So it all comes back to, that foundation of a balanced diet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you do get a craving, try to figure out what's causing it. Are you genuinely hungry, or are you feeling stressed or bored or maybe a bit emotional?
Yeah, sometimes I just crave something sweet. It's like my brain is demanding a sugar rush.
Sugar cravings are so common. But instead of giving in to those, unhealthy temptations, try finding healthier alternatives that will still satisfy your sweet tooth, but won't, completely undo all your hard work.
Like what? Give me some swaps.
Fruit is always a great option. It's naturally sweet and full of nutrients.
Okay.
You could also try dark chocolate, which has those beneficial antioxidants,
Oh.
or a small serving of Greek yogurt with some berries
Yum.
for a protein and calcium boost.
It's really sinking in that healthy eating doesn't have to be about deprivation. It's about finding those swaps that are still satisfying and delicious, but also nourish your body.
Exactly. Speaking of nourishing your body, let's talk about hydration again.
I know we've talked about it a couple of times, but I'm always open to more tips on how to drink more water.
It's so important. Our bodies function so much better when we're properly hydrated. We have more energy, our digestion improves, even our mental clarity gets a boost.
Okay, so how can we make sure we're drinking enough throughout the day? What are your top hydration hacks?
Well, one simple tip is to just carry a reusable water bottle with you everywhere you go
Okay.
and sip on it regularly throughout the day. You can even set reminders on your phone to drink water every hour or so.
I think I need those reminders, especially when I get, so absorbed in work and I just completely forget.
Oh, we've all been there. And another trick that I love is to infuse your water with fresh fruit or herbs or a squeeze of citrus fruit
Yeah.
to add a little flavor and make it more enjoyable.
I love doing that. Cucumber and mint water is so refreshing.
It's so good. And it's a great way to stay hydrated without, getting bored of plain water.
This has been an amazing deep dive, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and insights with us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
And remember, healthy eating is a journey, not a destination. It's about making those gradual changes that will benefit you for a lifetime.
I love that.
Don't beat yourself up if you have a slip up.
Yeah.
Just get back on track and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Find what works for you and enjoy the process.
Great advice. And to all of you listening, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend who might benefit, and subscribe to the English Podcast Lab for more deep dives on topics that matter. Until next time, happy eating.